Yes, welcome to the demo session of the Corporate Data League about address curation. In the today's session, I would like to give again a very brief overview of the Corporate Data League. To have a more precise overview on the Corporate Data League in general, I would like to refer to the last demo sessions about collaboration processes, and maybe also the first demo session about duplicate matching, where we had a bit deeper introduction. Today the focus is more on address curation, the role of address curation in the collaboration processes, but the focus is more on the single service of address curation that can be used in workflows or for batch curation. The session is recorded, and you can find afterwards the video of this demo and also all examples in our Corporate Data League portal, which is corporatedataleague.ch/meta. And there you have the demo sessions, all the past demo sessions, and the today's sessions is the address curation. And here you find all the examples, also the files with data that are used today for this demo session. Maybe one step back, or maybe first the overview. As already mentioned, I'd like to explain briefly the overall address curation approach that we use in the Corporate Data League. I will explain how you can use the service and also a web application to do batch curation. And I will briefly show how our API can be used also for testing purposes. Maybe first, again, one step back to understand why CDQ is offering address curation services in the context of the Corporate Data League. So as most of you will know, the Corporate Data League addresses business partner data maintenance, and the approach of the Corporate Data League is to maintain or to manage business partner data across corporate borders. That means we set up a community of companies which form the Corporate Data League and which manage in a certain way business partner data cross-corporately. And the reason is, of course, very simple. All of you are dealing more or less the same, or dealing with more or less the same problems or challenges. There are rising requirements regarding business partner data, accuracy, completeness, timeliness, and it takes much effort to ensure, for example, the correctness of addresses on a global scale for suppliers and for customers. And the specialty, so to say, for business partner data, in contrast, for example, to material data, is that all of you have similar or even the same customers and suppliers. So it definitely makes sense up to a certain extent to collaborate in data maintenance, because these addresses and also text numbers or legal names are not that strategic that you could not share some information about this data also with competitors. And this is the basic idea of the Corporate Data League. At the end, to do more with less. That means less maintenance effort because you share the efforts, and do more. That means get more data quality because more users are using at the end, or more companies are using the same data, and so quality increases. In the discussions around the Corporate Data League, some additional ideas arise that we are already addressing, and which have been addressed also by other demo sessions. In the middle pillar here, you see the topic of digitized frauds, that especially the topic of falsified invoices. We also set up, beside a database of business partner data, we also set up a database of proven bank accounts that are shared by some of you, and we set up a database of identified or uncovered fraud attacks in terms of a warning system where you can look up and check if a new bank account from your perspective is used, for example, in a form of fraud attack. This is not the topic for today. If you're interested in this and you hear this for the first time, please check the past demo sessions. Also to mention this, we also address several compliance topics. For example, the area of sanction and embargo lists. You can also use CDL services to match your data against up-to-date embargo and sanctions lists. But again, this is also not the topic for today. To understand also the role of address curation, as we call it, in the corporate data leak, you have to understand and reconsider how the data comes into the common database. And you see here on this slide the roles of, on the one hand, the companies who really form the corporate data leak, and this is special to the corporate data leak, who provide the data. So it's not us who does research or who collects business partner data, but it is you who share the data out of your processes when you create new suppliers, when you update supply information or customer information. On the other hand, it is us who have on a high level two tasks in this corporate data leak. The first is to manage this community. That means to establish certain standards in terms of data models, in terms of business rules for data quality measuring, and in terms of guidelines how to maintain data. Because only if we agree on the same understanding and a certain level of procedures, we can really share the data and get really a higher level of data quality. And our second part is to develop and operate the cloud infrastructure to enable the data sharing. That means we set up this CDL cloud that you really can use on a technical level to integrate services that are provided by this cloud into your systems, send us your updates, and receive updates from other companies, and also updates that we create, for example, from the address curation engine. And now maybe some words on the address curation in this setup. You can imagine that if we receive updates from 3 companies for the same supplier, that the addresses that we receive may differ in terms of upper lowercase, in terms of abbreviations, in terms of using codes for countries, for administrative areas, and so on. And this is why we need a very powerful capability, so to say, to understand addresses, to understand, besides upper lowercase, beside abbreviations and so on, which address is really meant by a company who sends us an update. And we have to find ways how to standardize these addresses, because it's not only the way into the cloud, but it's also the way when companies and you actually read the data. Then we have to also provide the information in a way that you can use it directly. That means if you want to use a code, an abbreviation, we have to provide it. And if you want to receive, for example, the full names of a street, of a country, of a locality, we also have to provide it. And this is actually the role of address curation in the collaboration processes. We have to ensure to normalize addresses that we receive, and to provide a maximum, so to say, of variance, how to write a locality, how to write a thoroughfare, to simplify the integration of the data from the cloud, from the CDL cloud, into your systems. Yes, and this is the reason why there is a address curation engine in the corporate data leak. But of course, we have it in place, and you can not only use it in the collaboration processes, but also for batch curation in workflow systems beside the address curation. And this is why we want to demonstrate today how this engine works. And also, of course, what is not yet working well, what is on the development agenda, to just give you an idea how this is really working, what you can expect from this engine, and also what you can expect in the future. Maybe you know already this service portfolio here. So the basic services are about the collaboration. To enable the collaboration, the data sharing. And as already mentioned, we need several capabilities, like as already presented in a session, the duplicate matching, like as already presented, the data quality matching in order to ensure a certain level of data quality. But as well, one of the most important parts is the address curation, as already mentioned, to normalize addresses, to enrich addresses, also to geocode addresses. And I missed that. We also have to try, we are also trying, and this is working quite well, to translate addresses. For example, if you provide an address in Chinese characters and Chinese language, and another company is providing this in English, we also have to, or we are also trying to bring this together in order to avoid duplicates and in order to provide this information as updates. I will show afterwards examples for that. So this is the reason why there are these address curation services, and why you can use these services from our cloud infrastructure. To give you a first impression, because before I go into the details, I have prepared a very simple demo or with just one record. I show this now in our web applications. That means this is the stable environment. I log in with my credentials, as you could also do. And I have already created here a very simple database with just one record. I will show afterwards how you can create such a database on your own. And if you look into this database, it's very simple. You just have a country code. It's Switzerland. We just have a name which is not relevant for the address curation, just to identify the record. We have a locality, which is the city, St. Gallen, and we have a street and a house number. That's it. So 3 address fields, and this data now can be used in our address curation app. You can select this. We only have one database here. You can select this database. You see this record in the database. You just can click it. Now it is curated. So that means the record is sent to our cloud, to the address curation engine, and you see the result here. That means the record was somehow geocoded. That means we have identified geographic coordinates for this record. And you already see here, there's now a postcode which was missing before. You see Switzerland, before you only had at CH. So there is already some it's already here obvious that some information was added. And if you go to the details, you see all the details and also a comparison between the data that you threw in, so to say, the CH, no geocodes, the city and the street, and you see the data that now comes out of the address curation engine. For example, the geographic coordinates, the locality, that means the city name is the same, and in the street data, you see already what we that we try to better understand this information. That means we we identified the 4 as a house number. We also know a standard abbreviation for this name, and of course the full name. Also to mention this, we have at the moment some issues with this application because we changed the way how we document the data model. You see here the labels for the particular attributes. It's a bit wordy. You can use these things to directly go to our documentation of these codes. You already see here the label that should be used, but it is at the moment not used. So this will fixed hopefully this week, just to understand why this looks a bit strange here, and some information is not shown. Like here, the you see here, if I hover there in the lower left, you see this is the administrative area level 2. That means the, I do not even know the word, the sub-canton, so to say, in Switzerland. It's for St. Gallen, it's not that interesting. It's always the same. So in the future, you will see here administrative area level 2 and abbreviated administrative area level 2. Just for your information. However, we are just looking today on this information here. Again, this is the input and this is the output from the address curation engine. So I think it's clear what it does. It enriches, it creates and understands abbreviations, and it also structures information which can be understood. So far, this very simple example. If you go back to the slides, this is also summarized here in a bit technical representation. You see here again the input, just CH, St. Gallen, and the street. And here we do, as already said, we add geocoordinates. We do some enrichment. We identify a postcode, for example, which is not the only postcode which is known for St. Gallen, but really the correct postcode for this street in St. Gallen. We do some abbreviations, and this is not yet shown in the online application. We provide a large set or some set of explanations what we do with the data. That means you see here which information is added, also which fields or to which fields this information is added, and you see if some fields are changed, for example, like the geographic coordinates, or here the thoroughfare value, because we removed the 4 in this example. The idea of these logs here is, of course, on the one hand, to provide, for example, in a batch address curation project where you migrate data and want to improve the address quality, that you understand what has changed, and if, for example, critical fields are changed, like the postcode or something, you can recheck it. It's structured information, so you can also put it into several fields and better filter from it and so on. And if you integrate, this is the second use case of such information, if you integrate these services really into your workflow systems, like in SAP MDG, for example, you can use this information to highlight fields in order to focus the user on these fields and to say, okay, please check again this field here. We have an important change, and this has to be validated or rechecked or something, or to highlight fields where information was added for a double check or something. This is why we provide this these details here. Yes, and in this example here, or in this picture, you just see this this batch curation app. We have another example with 7 records where I can also explain how this is working. But this is, again, this is the basic of the address curation engine. It does geocoding, enrichment, abbreviations, and provides detailed explanations on what we do with the address data. In a second example, I would like to use now some more maybe interesting data with some more details in terms of rooms and levels, and also from more interesting regions like Brazil or Korea and so on. And for this, I prepared another example, maybe to show you also the source data, so to say, that I use here. I upload now this data. That means it could be directly exported, for example, from an SAP field, SAP system. It is not using our attributes, and I will also show you now how you can map such a file that you can maybe also automatically export from your SAP systems or other systems, and how you can bring this into the cloud. It's again very simply structured, just the country information, the name, which is not relevant here, just to identify the records, city, and some street information. To bring this data into the corporate data lake cloud, which is a prerequisite, so to say, to use this application. In the third example, I will also show how you can use our services directly in a technical way, but I think for business users or in projects, the application is quite convenient here. I already prepared a mapping that is needed to map the custom fields that I show you. So for example, the city or the street to our data model in order to enable the understanding, so to say, of the address. This mapping looks a bit technically, but it's really simple. We have our field names and we just say how your fields map to these default fields. You could also map several fields to one field, define how they are concatenated and so on. But for this example, this is really simple. We have the name, it's mapped to the name local. We have the country, which maps to the country short name, which is the country code. Locality value is mapped to city, and street to our thoroughfare value. And we can use this mapping now to create a new database in our cloud. I just use the file I showed you. It's now uploaded, and if you browse through the data, you see the fields now are mapped to the CDL data model. That means it's no longer city, but it's locality value, thoroughfare value, country short name, which is required to, again, to understand the addresses and to enable all the transformation. Now we have these two databases, Demo A and Demo B. I go again to the address curation, and now I can choose also the second database. You now see here the seven records. And if we go back to the data, you see here already the specifics of this example. Here, for example, we have a standard address, but also some local language information like the Gebäude und Etage and Raum, which is German language and means building, level and room at the end. And in this example, I click again the record. Now it's parsed. You see you have the geocodes. You see already now we have an added postcode and so on. But if you go to the details, you also see, for example, that, and it's a bit yes, it's bad that we do not see the labels here, but you see here that the curation engine understood the house, for example. It understood that Gebäude is a house, a building. It also understood, for example, the level, right, like from etage, and also the room information, and puts it in particular fields that can be then afterwards maybe ignored, for example, if you reuse the data in your systems, or you can concatenate this again to one big string of information, or you can put it into particular fields in order to really structure the address. It is up to you. From our service, you receive all the details, and then you can decide how you use this information, if you put it again together or if you manage it in a more structured way. You also see here, for example, that the locality, the city, is considered from our engine as the administrative area, right? And that the particular localities are identified as Bülach, which is the real locality of this address, and also the sub-locality here is identified. You do not have to use all this information, but you can. Yes, so this example I just wanted to show that that the engine is also able to really structure and understand these sub-premise information. Another maybe more simple example is an US address. Here we have, if we go back to the address, all the familiar abbreviations like S for south and DR for drive, and of course this is also working fine for the engine. You see also the enriched information, the geocodes, the codes for the countries. What is missing here from my perspective, I have to check this. I would have expected that we also receive an abbreviation again for this thoroughfare here. But this is not provided. It should be provided. We have to analyze why this is not the case, but the other information is provided well here. The following examples are a bit more advanced regarding the regions and the languages. For regions like US, like Switzerland, Germany, France, and so on, the results are quite good. It depends, of course, always on the data, on the reference data that we use for this cleansing. For those of you who are interested into the details, you can check this in our CDL portal. There you see some information on address curation. You see also again a list of the features, and you see for several criteria regarding postcodes, administrative areas, business rules, reference data concepts, and so on, some levels that we have started to define in order to provide some details how good for certain countries the address curation is working. This is not yet complete. It's manual work to check the levels and to provide some scores here. But you can check here, for example, if you look for Germany, there are already some explicitly managed concepts that improve the address curation. It works on premise level, which means like I showed, house numbers, rooms, buildings, and so on. And the quality is really good from our perspective. If you go, for example, for Korea, it's of course difficult for North Korea to check addresses. It's also working on a very high level because reference data is missing. For South Korea, it's a bit better, but we just assigned here, for example, the quality of 4. So this is available. We are continuously adding information here and trying to provide more and more transparency. On the other hand, if you identify shortcomings, or if you think our scoring does not match to the outcome of the services, please let us know. Let's have a discussion on the things which is missing, for example, because this address curation topic is of course very complex and have very many facets, and we have to really work together to bring this on the level at the end you need. However, for the most common regions, the largest markets, or the regions like Europe, as already said, US, and so on, this is working really good. And also for the maybe a bit more advanced regions, I will show you in the examples now. We have for Great Britain, of course, this is working well as well. I just added this example to show again here some level information is passed, and again a house number is understood here, and so you get, yes, better structured addresses. For the next example, maybe we go back to the the source data. We are now here in this example. We only have this Japanese address string without any city information or nothing. The issue of Japanese addresses for people like me who cannot or do not know how to speak and understand Japanese language, it's really hard to read because there are no spaces and so on. I just are able to understand here the house number, which is not really a house number at the end. So it's might be helpful to use a system to understand this address. And in our example now, we send now this address string to the engine. And we see already geocoding has worked. It has understood this is somewhere in larger Tokyo. And if you go to the details, it's really, really well structured. We have this was the input, and the system has identified it is, as already mentioned, in Tokyo, which is the larger area, but it also identified the address structuring, which is the sublocality in Tokyo, which is the block of the building at the end, and all this is structured here. You do not see the labels, but this is then the locality level 2, level 3, level 4, and the information is structured here. Of course, again, it's up to you to put this information afterwards again back into one street string or something, but you have now the chance to, for example, decide, okay, I take these two parts as a street and the latter one as a house number, for example, which is, from our understanding, would be the right mapping. But you have the chance to manage those addresses in a better way. And if you are not able to understand Japanese and you only have these addresses, of course, it's a big advantage to have also the translation to Latin characters. It does not work for all fields. To be clear here, we are highly depending on reference data here. We are continuously adding more and more address data, translation data, and so on. But there will be always cases where the translation does not work 100%. But even this way, of course, it's an advantage because you know where the address is, the region, the localities, and so on. The next example is just a Brazilian address, because Brazil is also mentioned always that it's difficult for address parsing. Maybe we have, or maybe the issue in our case is not a big one because we are using Google Maps as one resource of data. And as you know, as normal Google Maps users, Google Maps is also working for Brazil and also for almost all other countries. It depends, of course, how well we can parse, for example, or understand house names and levels and so on if they are mentioned in Brazilian language. But for general addresses like here, this is working well. It has understood that this is the street, this is the house number, it has added the postcode and so on, the regions, the geocodes, and so on. The next example is again a local language example from China, from Shanghai. And also here, geocoding works well. And also here, the address is understood. You see here, the number is understood as a house number at the end. The road is identified and also translated, and all the regions are added. So the address is known and understood. And the last example, as already mentioned, address data in Korea is really a big issue because there are not so many reference data available. But this is a real example from some data that we analyzed. Also here, this is working well. The locality was already correct, but what was added here is all the information regarding the administrative areas and also some sub-localities. Daegu is a large city, and so in Korea it's always important to understand in which sub-localities an address at the end is, and this is provided here completely. Okay, so far the examples. Of course, you could add here thousands and 100,000 addresses and run these addresses also in a batch mode. You see here this play button. So if you have such a database, you could always just put this button, and then the cleansing, which I did manually by clicking the records, is done for you. And you see a progress bar and see when it's completed. And then you can also download a report for all these records, which summarizes at the end the differences and what is added here. So you see, for example, that no country value was given, but in the created version, this value was available. The country short name, of course, is the same like in the created version. Administrative area was added. And here in the locality, you remember the example of Zurich. We provided Zurich, and the engine changed this to Bülach, which might be relevant for a double check. So this is marked as yellow. And you have here the complete logs for each record that you could use for further processing, or just for understanding what has happened to this address. The idea of these reviews, of these reports, is just to provide some downloadable result out of this application. You could, of course, also use this to import the data into systems. But if you think about technical integrations, you have always keep in mind that we are mostly focusing on technical interfaces, and these applications that I showed today in this session is working on top of these services. That means all what you've seen here in this application, the cleansing, the comparisons, and all the things, could be also done with the services here, right? So you can, and this is the last example. Where I have it here. You can go to our technical interface. I use now the development environment and the API. The links are also provided in the documentation here. Just to mention this, as already shown in the documentation of this demo session here. So you can go to this interface documentation, and there all our services, the technical services, are documented. And for example, here we have the addresses curate service, and you can use this documentation tool here also to check and to play around with the curation engine to understand what is able for which regions this is working well, and so on. You just have to authenticate. In this case, I use our demo users, John Dewey and password PW. It's also documented in the wiki pages. And now you can use this documentation to play around. That means you can add here a very simple, of course it's technical now, but it's the alternative, so to say, to the web application where you can use Excel and so on. Just use, for example, this very simple example. Country, Switzerland, locality, St. Gallen, thoroughfare, which is the street, Lukasstraße 4. In this case, but it's up to you. It's for technical guys. You have to say which format you are using. I'm using this one because it's a little bit more readable. And now you can just try it out. It's not worked. Maybe I've recheck it here. So another try it out. No, no idea. Maybe I have to use another demo user. Just a minute. Maybe it's working with this one. So again, I'm here in this addresses, address curate, changing the format, adding the data. Hopefully now, yes, now it's working. No idea why not. So it's for technical people, it's just an URL that is used. We post this request to our service, and you receive this request, this response, including all the information that you also see in the web application. And this way, you can directly use these services, for example, in an SAP MDG workflow, also in other workflow tools. It's not dependent on SAP. It's a very simple way to integrate such services. You see you have directly the full power of this cleansing engine. You could change this data to all the examples I showed. It's working on global scale. It's working up to premise level, like house numbers, like rooms, like floors, and so on. It includes the translation. So just yes, give it maybe a try in this environment. Play around this way or with the curation application. Okay, that's it regarding the demonstration. So maybe again, as a wrap up, we have seen the general approach with geocoding, translation, abbreviations, and so on. We have seen the batch curation via the web application. You can upload data, you can map it to your custom data models, you can yes, run the batch curation and download the report. And you can use, of course, which is the major integration use case, to be clear on that, you can use these services via the technical interfaces, the API. That's it for the demonstration. I will now stop the recording, and maybe we can have some additional feedback and questions on this topic.